My favorite Christmas present has to be when I was younger. There was a hockey stick that everyone wanted called, I think it was like the Synergy Psycho or something. It was an orange stick.
Christmas present was probably new hockey stuff or road hockey gear.
My favorite Christmas present was probably my first bike back in the day.
Probably PlayStation 2. Big gamer back in the day.
Probably say hockey stuff. Every time I got a hockey gift or stick, mainly especially when I was younger, I'd sleep with it at night, get all pumped up in the morning to go get it.